What up, YouTube? It's your boy Detroit Love with another video. Today we're going to take a look at how to best configure your buttons now that you have your Arcade1Up going. Let's get it started. Today we're going to talk about button assignment. Joystick and button assignment. Joysticks up, down, left, right, that's no big deal. We all program that the same. But the buttons can be assigned different ways, and if you're not sure what buttons you should use, it could cause issues with some games. Now, or even take for example, this game here, this bowling game. You get into a game like this where it's going to require different buttons, and you may not be able to figure out. Let me put some coins in. You know what? Every time you go into a new game, you're going to have to figure out what button do I use to do what. Obviously, the joystick is going to go left and right and up and down. But you see here, if I do this button here, it turns my, it curves the ball to the left. And if I do this one to the right, and so if you had that in a different orientation or button assignment, you know, you could be hitting the left button and it's curving to the right. And vice versa, you know, so it makes playing games difficult if the buttons aren't configured properly. Now, obviously, there's like 2,400 games on here. You're bound to have some issues. No one configuration is going to satisfy all those games, because those games were made with different type of cabinets, with different types of buttons and those things like that. But you can configure it a certain way and it will satisfy the majority of the games. And so that's why we're talking about what I recommend setting your buttons to, programming your buttons to, assigning your buttons to which letters or functions. And like always, I'm not just going to say my way is the best way or the only way, but I'm going to give you the justification and why I chose that direction. Now, my buttons is going to be slightly different than the diagram that you can get off my Dropbox, because most people aren't going to have a coin box, and so I'm basing this on how I had it before I had the coin box and how most people are going to be utilizing their Galaga or Pac-Man or any other vertical box. Because one of the first things you're gonna have to decide when you do a vertical box is how many buttons. Now, I've seen people basically recreate a Street Fighter two-player setup on a vertical box, and to me that's crazy. But it covers all the bases. But in my view, I just don't see, and I've had countless conversations with people, and I understand the logic, because if you give a person everything, then there won't be any game that they can't play. But yeah, I just can't justify putting two players, because most games alternate. There are games that you can play together vertical, but the majority, most of the games that take two-player are typically a wider screen, because you have two people viewing it. And so the first decision you do have to make is when deciding to mod a vertical cabinet is how many buttons are you going to put on here. And I decided to go with 3. It turns out that it should at least be 4. And it works out great that 3 are on the board, because for most games, that's all you're ever going to use. But the fourth button comes in to play when you want to get into the configuration, the RetroArch programming area, so that you can change settings on the games or per game. So that's where that fourth button really comes in. So let's talk about the button assignments that I think are the best way to go for a vertical build. And this is the reason why I chose this configuration. There is one game that I play that I like a lot. I can't play it too much because it's tough on my aging hands and joints and fingers, but it's called Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke requires that you have the buttons configured properly or in a specific way for the gameplay to function properly. So if I put some credits in and start the game. So in this game, you have the middle button that shoots up straight, and then you have the buttons that shoot diagonal. The buttons are in the proper orientation to shoot center, left, right, left, and so in setting this up, this has worked out great for all the other games that I have played so far. All right, enough of that. So that's how I came to the determination to set my game up, with the B button being the fire button, the normal fire button for Galaga, and that works out perfectly for that as well. So I have the fire button is B, the next one over, the middle button is A, and the third button is Y. B, A, Y. So the B button is the fire button. So that works out fine for if someone's playing the actual cabinet game, which is Galaga. Mercantile has the pepper button, which I forgot about till someone mentioned that. And whoever that was, I appreciate it, because I totally forgot about the pepper. So the player one, that's the start button. Player two, normally without the coin box, would be my coin button. So let's see. Yep, so the fire button is my pepper button. See, the fire button works out for the pepper button as well. So I think this is the best setup for the Galaga machine, or the vertical machine. Now, keep in mind, I decided on 3 buttons, but it turns out that you need at least 4 buttons, and here's why. In my Dropbox, I have this diagram for Galaga. I have one for Street Fighter. I have one for the jukebox, how I configure the buttons. So it talks about these assignments, the hotkey assignments. So you see here, if you hit the coin box, which is the coin button, which is the select button, that'll insert coins. If you hold the coin button down or press the coin box with the start button, that exits the current game. Most people know about that one already. If you hit the coin button and the right shoulder button, that will save a game. The coin button and the left shoulder button will load a game. If you use your D-pad or your joystick to go left or right, going to the right with the coin button will increase the save state number or slot number, and going to the left will decrease. The coin button or select button with the X button will get you to the GUI menu, and the coin button or select button with the B button resets the current game. That's why you will need that fourth button, is to have the X button. Because with this configuration that I have, we'll be missing the X button. So if I hit the coin button, the hotkey, and the X button, that brings up your quick menu. The quick menu is how you configure your game. Some games, they'll have the ability to have cheats or give extra credits per coin and all those type of things. But you can't get into that without having the X button. Now, if you have your keyboard, which I recommend with the builds, you can do certain things with using the keyboard as well. Now I have, like I mentioned, I have 4 buttons down below. So you see these 4 buttons here. I only have those 4 buttons because I was setting up someone's Street Fighter and I tried to change the design a little bit and it didn't look good. So I took my undisturbed board from Galaga and put it on the Street Fighter with the normal 2 coin buttons, and then I just threw this on here. But now that I have extra buttons, then I just program them for other things. So now I have the left and right shoulder buttons down here where I wouldn't normally have it. So let's just talk about this. So the coin, my hotkey just happens to be this button here because I have these extra buttons, but normally it would be the player 2 in this configuration. So the hotkey and the B button will reset. That's going to reset the current game. So if I put a quarter in and I hit this hotkey and the B button, it resets it. I just lost my quarter. The Y button doesn't do anything, but you need the Y button here for those games like the Gunsmoke. So if that wasn't the case, you could put the X up there with 3 buttons and be all set, right? But there are some games that are going to use that Y. I don't know of many games that use X. So it's okay if you put a single button down here on your control, on your front panel for that X button. And that's why I put that in the diagram that I give you. But let's talk about this. So if I do have the left shoulder and right shoulder button, I can save states, and we'll talk about that when I go over to the Street Fighter. But in the case of the Galaga, typically you won't have it. If you just have the 4 buttons, you're going to have B, A, X, and Y, and your start and select. You can still save things by just going to hotkey X, go to the menu, and you have your state slot. You can save the state, load the state right from the menu. So we'll start the game. All right, and so I can hit hotkey X, and I can go over here and say save state. It's going to save to state 0 because that's what state I currently have it set to. So I'll hit the button to save. Now if I get out here, alright, so I just got out. I hit the hotkey X and I can load this state, and now you see I'm back to where I was before. So if I hit the hotkey and the right button, I'm going to decrease or increase. So now you see I'm on state 1. So now if I save this state, you see I just got out. If I control hotkey X and say load state, I'm going to be right there just before I die. Now see, that's too close, so there's no way I can live. So let's try it again. Load state. And I was able to pepper, so it was a way for me to live. Now if I do load state again, or hotkey X, I can go back up here to state 0 and load that. Now I'm back to the beginning of the game. That makes sense? So even though I don't have the left shoulder and right shoulder keys, I'm able to do that. It's just more steps. I have to pull up the menu and then go down and select it. So let's take a look at Street Fighter. So here's a Street Fighter configuration. 2-player setup with both set up identical on each side. You have your start button at the top. We look at player 1 on the left side. We have the Y button is the top left. X button is the top center. Left shoulder is the top right. If we go to the bottom row, we have B as your left, the lower left. A is your lower center, and right shoulder is your right, your lower right. And then you have your coin button on the bottom. So both are set up the same, but they're set up that way so that the signature game, Street Fighter, controls work the way they should. But by having more buttons, we can do a lot of the save states and things like that with the buttons alone, without having to go to the menu. Now you know you got the 2 coins at the bottom, so I'm not going to show those, because you know if I hit the hot button, these 2 on the bottom, the 2 white ones, are the hot keys. So whenever I'm hitting the hot key, I'm hitting that button with one of these adjacent buttons. Alright, so in this case, I can do the X is the center button. I'm going to get that same menu, okay? The bottom green one, or the bottom center, is your enter or OK button. So if I do coin X again, I see I'm on state 0. Remember, I can hit the coin and the right button. I hit it twice, so I'm at state 2. Okay? So if I'm in the middle of a game, let's just exit. If I'm in the middle of the game, I can save by doing the save is the right shoulder, which is the lower right button here. So let's just start a game. So if I hit the coin and right shoulder, that saves the game. If I coin and left shoulder, you see it went back to that point. So see here, I can keep on repeating this by doing the coin and the left shoulder, which is the top right. Okay? If I hit the coin and to the right and then hit the R, the right shoulder, I just saved it at that point. So if I load the state, I'm back over that corner. So if I load, it pulls up that. I go, I think, the 2 and load that. That's that beginning one. So you have to remember which state that you saved it in. But with multiple buttons, with more buttons, if you have the left and right shoulders, you're able to load and save as you're playing without having to exit the game. So the select and B button will reset the game. So if I hit the coin and the B button, it reboots or resets this game. If I hit the coin button, and here I can go and load that state, And even though I just restarted the game, I can be exactly back to where I started. You already know the coin and the start button exits that current game. I have seen people take the vertical games and put this same exact keyboard setup on that machine. It makes sense to the degree that if you're going to give somebody a MAME, give them the ability to play every game on it. Because even though I don't like to play landscape games over here and vertical games over in Street Fighter, if it was my only cab, then yeah, I wouldn't mind playing Joust over here or Street Fighter over here, and I wouldn't mind playing Galaga on the other one, or vice versa, because it's my only machine. And so having all the buttons gives me the ability to play all the games. That makes sense if that's the route you want to go. That's not the route I like to go. I want to have all verticals here with setup buttons for vertical, and all the landscape games over there with their setup as well. So again, it's all about preferences. I'm giving you the knowledge necessary to help decide what buttons you need to have, want to have, are going to have, and how you're going to set up those buttons now that you do have them. Okay, so I hope this helps. People tell me all the time that they are thankful that these videos exist so that they can make good decisions about their mod. A lot of people said, hey, without your encouragement, I would never have done it. And so I encourage you to step out of your comfort zone and to get it done and enjoy it. I was cutting that acrylic today for those marquees. You can see the marquees missing out of Street Fighter, and I still haven't made those angle cuts, but I keep getting a step closer. And I did get the shipping notice from the retro collector, so those marquees should be coming, but I've already spent this money on these things here, so I'm gonna have to, it makes sense to use them. So that is my plan. They're just very slow plans, but I'm getting out of my comfort zone. And that acrylic, I was using a box cutter that was real cheap, and it was behaving like it was a very cheap box cover. I went to Menards and paid $5 for this like pocket knife type box cutter that flips out, and of course, with a sharp blade, I got through that acrylic thing much easier with less skips and extra slices. They still didn't come out perfect, but I think they'll work just fine once I finally get to the next level. So I have the wood cut. I still have to get them to the right size and get the right angles on it. I got the acrylic cut. I got the metal strips, the 10 right angles cut to size. So I'm really like 95% of the way there, you know, maybe 90% because I got to paint some things. So I'm getting closer. Now that this thing is, the top is done, I guess I could peek and see how this light would look inside here too, because I hadn't done that. This LED light that I have, I think I still haven't decided. Once I get the retro collectors thing in, I'll decide. But see, I'm thinking I'm going to put this in here and put the bar light, just velcro that up there and shine that light, so just to determine where it's going to go in there. This thing is nice and thin, light. So I don't know, we'll see. Maybe I can even tilt it like that. So we'll see where we're gonna go with this. Almost there, people. Stay tuned. So I'm gonna let you guys go. Make sure you go to my Dropbox and get these button assignment sheets. There's one for Galaga, one for Street Fighter. And in the comments below, man, let me know what you think, what videos you want to see next. I'm always here for help, so just keep the questions coming. Hit that like button. Let people know if you get no friends and family that has arcades, let them know about the channel as well. And until next time, I'll see you on the web.